We can start.
Good evening, one and all. A warm welcome to the fourth day of 1 week online international faculty development program on recent advances in mathematics and statistics. It is an honor to express my gratitude to Professor Edavalli Venkata Sharma Garu and Professor Shri Uma Shankar Garu, Professor A. Chandrasekhar Garu for joining today's session. Dear participants, we have completed 4 different types of innovative and inspired lectures by distinguished professors on mathematics and statistics so far. We are going to have one more memorable session today on regression analysis and its limitations in data analysis by the renowned statistician Professor K. Srinivasarao Garu, Department of Statistics, Andhra University. I am sure you will enjoy and be enlightened by his vibrant lecture. Now I welcome Dr. V. Sirisha to introduce Professor K. Srinivasarao Garu. Over to Dr. V. Sirisha.
Thank you, Sridhar Garu. It's my honor to be able to introduce Professor K. Srinivasarao Garu. Passion towards statistics and data sciences escorted Professor Rao to join Andhra University as assistant professor in 1985 and elevate as senior professor. Encompassing 35 years of experience in teaching, research and consultancy, and strong foundations in mathematics and statistics, he pioneered several new concepts such as interdependent communication network models with dynamic bandwidth allocation, new symmetric distributions, family of bimodal distributions, generalized Laplace distributions, generalized logistic distribution, further generalization of generalized Gaussian distribution, merged distributions and their applications in image segmentation, face recognition systems, skin color segmentation, economic production, quality models with random production, hybrid communication network models with optimal scheduling, optimal control charts with random in control times, manpower models with heterogeneous bulk recruitment, heterogeneous queuing models. Professor Rao got Distinguished Statistician Award by Indian Society of Probability and Statistics, in short ISPS, Fellow of AP Academy of Sciences, Fellow of ORSI, Operations Research Society of India. Dr. Rao guided 54 students for PhD degrees in statistics, mathematics, computer science, mechanical engineering, and electronics and communication engineering. He published 223 research papers in national and international journals of high repute. He successfully completed 12 research papers funded by Government of Andhra Pradesh, UGC, DST, Ministry of Family Welfare. Conducted more than 28 international conferences, seminars, workshops, and training programs. Delivered 53 endowment lectures and keynote addresses or plenary talks in conferences and seminars. He published 3 patents in image segmentation and skin color identification. He served a lead consultant for TCS, Bengaluru, Satyam Engineering Services, Hyderabad, ADB Solutions, Hyderabad, Bharat Heavy Electrical Limited, Hyderabad, Aurobindo Pharma, Hyderabad, Dr. Reddy's Laboratories, Hyderabad, Sagar Cements, Hyderabad, Visakhapatnam Port Trust, Visakhapatnam, and Lucas TVS, Chennai, and several other corporates. Professor Rao is elected president of ISPS and regional coordinator of AP Academy Sciences, Visakhapatnam chapter. He was elected Vice President for Operations Research Society of India during the periods 2011-2014 and elected Chief Editor of JISPS published by Springer during 2010-2018 and Associate Editor for OpSearch published by Springer during 2014-2018. He also served as Vice President Operations of JBS, an MNC company, during 2004-06 on Lean from Andhra University, and also wrote a book on model-based color image segmentation. Dr. Rao served at Andhra University in various capacities as head of the Department of Statistics for 3 times, Chairman Board of Studies in the Department of Statistics for 8 years, ISPO coordinator and management representative during the period 2006 to 8, coordinator UGC, Dean R&D, Andhra University, during the period 2014 to 16. Chairman NAC, Steering Committee, Andhra University during 2013 to 16, and Chairman, Faculty of Sciences 2019-20, Convener, APRSET for the years 2018 and 2019. Served as Coordinator, UGC SAP, Department of Statistics, Andhra University since 2012 to 18, and Governing Body member of Center for Modeling and Simulation, PALA, sponsored by DST. Presently, Rao is serving as Member Secretary, APSET, since 2015, member of one of the august academic body of Andhra University Academic Senate since 2013, and Principal, Andhra University College of Science and Technology. Now, thank you, sir, for coming to this program. Now, with due respect, I invite Srinivas Rao, sir, to deliver the talk.
So, good evening, everybody, and I thank the organizers for giving. Sridhar, hello, hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir,
It is audible, sir. It is audible.
Audible, sir.
Are you able to see the screen?
No, sir.
Yes, sir. No, sir.
Screen is not visible, sir. Screen.
Screen. That's what I am trying here. Some is not coming up. Why?
I'll stop.
Will stop other screen sharing.
Yeah, sir. And stop, sir.
It is not coming share. Okay. Are you able to see the screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Desktop.
Yeah. So you got the slides?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So it is visible, sir.
Okay. Okay. Good evening to all of you. In fact, it's a pleasure for me to interact with this FDP program. And I thank the organizers, especially Dr. Sridhar and Sirisha and others. And also I thank the administrators, vice chancellors, pro-vice chancellors, directors, dean of Geetham University. Very much feel associated with the Geetham University because 10 of my students, PhD students, they are working as faculty in Geetham at present. And 6 more others, they served the Geetham. So 16 of my PhD students are associated with Geetham University in one way or other. So I always feel whatever chance comes to me to interact with the Geetham faculty, I take it as an opportunity to interact. And coming to the present talk, it is on regression analysis and its limitations in data analysis. It being a faculty development program, when Sridhar asked me, I thought that I should talk very basic concepts coming out to be useful for data analytics. In many of the faculty, those who are particularly involved with consultancy, because mathematics and statisticians nowadays, due to the data analytics being a buzzword to every science, every other discipline, they often come to us and ask and help for their projects, thesis, and other things that we all know. So when they come and do it, the first and foremost things that we often have to do is the regression analysis, in data analysis particularly. So when we do this data analysis, the packages, how far these packages are helpful for us? The statistical packages. Many of the other discipline people, when they come to us, they depend on SPSS, SAS, or some other packages, statistical packages. They take the output and come to us. When they come, we usually take the interpretation based on certain sort of assumptions and go ahead. So what are the actual limitations applying this regression analysis for the data they have collected? This is a very important part for many of the data analysts, even though it is a very simple and very easy for many of the things. Those who have studied in statistics and econometrics particularly, they will be doing regularly. But for the others, those who are tackling with regression analysis, even though they studied at earlier stages, they may miss the very important consideration. And also some sort of the challenges are there when we touch the sort of assumptions associated with the regression analysis. So on that, now during this 50 minutes talk, I'm going to cover this part. A brief discussion about the regression analysis and ordinary least square estimators, OLS estimators we often call, and what are the assumptions of linear model for the regression analysis. In that, how the problems will be there: multi-collinearity, heteroscedasticity, autocorrelation, and normal. These are the very important basic assumptions we do. But when it comes to testing and implementing in the actual data analysis, what are the difficulties and how we have to do and what is the considerations that? Because in the many of the packages, statistical packages, even though these parts are there, several of our simple complexity or other considerations, the inferences are based on a simple consideration. So to avoid it, so what exactly required for this and what are the further extensions if we move these assumptions, that I'm going to discuss in this present discussion. So first, for the benefit of the younger participants here, let me elaborately talk about why there is a regression analysis. What is the need? Why we have to consider regression at all? So this we all know, to establish the relationship between the variables. When we want to establish relationship, how we will so do those perceptions about the relations will be good or not? Will be true with respect to statistical sense or not? So to do all that, we have to go for regression analysis. So regression analysis is basically focuses on establishing the relations between the variables. And another very important consideration by regression analysis, often when we are dealing with data, we will come across trivial many variables, which will be, we think that they will be influencing the dependent variable. And we may be able to identify several independent variables, several other variables, which we may not have a direct influence. Then the question is whether all the collected variables, all the information that was available with respect to variable, do they be useful for analyzing the response? Do they be useful for analyzing this dependent variable? That is the question will arise. To answer that question, which few, which are the very, very important, vital, those are to be identified. How to identify, how to do that. So the regression analysis will give all that methodology to do that. So to reduce trivial many to vital few, regression analysis will be very helpful for that. And another very, very important, understanding the processes, whatever phenomenon or process we have to analyze, first we have to understand it. To understand it, the insights, the relations, we have to establish. Then only the understanding will be proper. So how the influence of one variable is acting on the other variables, that comes in. So for that better understanding, the regression analysis will be helpful. And another very important for predictive modeling, forecasting the variables. So predictive modeling, one of the easiest and simplest consideration we have is regression models. So we can use regression models or regression analysis. Another very important is identifying the factors which determinants will be very, very serious about the response. That is another important consideration. Not only reducing trivial many to vital few. In that vital few, what is the effect? So cause and effect when you want to analyze. How the influence of that will be there. The independent variable will be influencing. How much influence will be there? That can be measured and analyzed by our regression analysis. Another very important in many of the studies, many other parts, to make a benchmark. So baseline. What should be the baseline? To make a comparison. To have the criteria. To fix the targets. For that, this regression analysis will be very helpful. Not only this, these are only limited to some of the parts. There are several other things where the regression analysis is extensively used. Particularly when we take this regression analysis, the linear models. When we consider the linear models, we all know that the influence of the linear models is vital in designs of experiments and several other areas. So for all that things, we have to consider regression analysis. So regression analysis is one of the most primary and important part for data analytics. That's why now let us look what are the limitations associated with this regression analysis. When we go for this regression analysis, we all know that regression is establishing a functional relationship between an output variable and an input variable. Not one, maybe several. So a functional relationship we have to establish through our mathematical theory. So using the mathematics, we have to establish F, the functional relationship. Here it is very important. In order to understand the response, we have to focus on input variables. That are the very important. What are these response variables? There we may call it as a dependent variable, or it may be an output variable, or it may be a response, or it may be an effect, or it may be a symptom. But all these we may talk in our sense as in independent variables, or input variables, variables or causes or problems for X we attribute. So every while we have to identify which are the X's that will be influencing. That is very important, and we have to focus on X's in order to have a control on Y. Because these are controllable variables. So when we are having this in statistical study, so the relationship, we know that a linear model, a simple linear model we may consider. We can see that a simple linear model that is between dependent variable regressed on the independent variables. So when we take this linear regression, what are important? Three things are very, very important. One is the model selection. So which model we have to pick up? How to do that? How to take care? That is one important, one prime area. Unless you have a tentatively identification of a proper model, we cannot do the justice to our analysis. And more so it may mislead. All inferences we brought on that may be misleading. So to avoid that sort of thing, model selection, model identification is the most important consideration for regression analysis. Then, once you have taken this model, every model is constructed based on certain postulates or assumptions. So what are the assumptions that are there? Because the classical theory is developed from hypothetical basis. Hypothesis to the model. Now the advanced theory is focused on data to model. We have to go from data to model, not from that. So when we go for data to model, we have to see the validation of the assumptions that were taken care. So what are the assumptions? How far the data meets those assumptions? And if the data does not meet those assumptions, what to do? How to analyze further? We cannot simply leave that end saying that the data is not satisfying this set of conditions. We have to overcome that problems. So the assumptions under which the models are developed, that are very important and they have to be validated. Then the model validation, fitted model, how far this model works well for the realistic situation. That is to be validated. These are the three primary steps for any model building and data analysis part, if you are using models for analyzing the data. So here, let us look into that. What are the basic regression model we have? Mathematically, it is a linear equation. I am considering a simple linear model. That is a multivariate linear model, regression model. Here we all know that beta 1 is the intercept, beta 2 to beta p we call it as a regression coefficients, and epsilon is the residual or disturbance or noise, which is we consider as random for our analysis. In mathematically, if you want to put it in a matrix format, we can simply put in this form. Now, this model, when we take into this, what are the assumptions that were there for this model to have the further analysis? So here, one important consideration is the random component. People may call the residuals or disturbance or noise or error. This error term, expectation of the residuals equals to 0. So this is the fundamental basic assumption we start with. This is a very simple assumption. If not also, we will try to play with that. So one of the foremost assumption is the mean 0. Then, what is this? The error between these variables, they are uncorrelated. The errors are uncorrelated. They are not correlated. Second assumption is the errors are uncorrelated. That is what we can have. That means the errors have a constant variance. They are IID, independently, identically distributed to have the further analysis. This is another valid and important assumption we are considering. Then, as a part of this, X is a controllable variable. Keep in mind that whatever X input variable you are giving, that is the levels, at different levels you may be giving, but at what level you are giving, you may be knowing it. You are focusing on that. You are using that. So your X is a controllable variable. So the controllable variable with the residual term, they are uncorrelated. This is another vital assumption. Then we have the independent variables, observation, which are we say controllable or whatever you call, the independent variables. They are independent. By name we are calling it independent. That means they are supposed to be independent. That means there is no correlation among the variables of independent variables. So this may lead the multi-collinearity. This is another very, very serious and important problem, which when we are working with the data, several times we come across this multi-collinearity. Then what is the very important consideration? The rank of the X equals to P. Otherwise we cannot go for getting the important consideration. If these assumptions, why we have to make? What made us to think about these assumptions? Because in the model I have specified the beta coefficients. They are unknown to me. What is known to us? Y and X. But what are the parameters there? Beta. Those betas are unknown. So those betas are to be estimated. How can I estimate? I can estimate by using OLS. To have the OLS estimators in a better way to perform these OLS estimators, So what is the better way they can perform? These estimators must be unbiased and linear estimators. Unbiased linear estimate and must have a minimum variance. So the OLS estimators must be unbiased linear estimators and have minimum variance. To have it, those assumptions are very important. So an estimator is the best linear unbiased estimator for a parameter theta if these are satisfied. So for efficiency of these estimators, because the beta unknown parameter you are estimating with the data, then you are building a model and using the model for prediction or any analysis for understanding. If your model is not correct, if your model is not properly estimated these coefficients, then model may not serve the purpose. So it is very important your coefficients, that estimates are to be done in a robust manner. To have it, these assumptions are very important. Because why they are very important is, they are based on these estimates in an OLS estimation. How we have built up these OLS estimators? They are choosing the error sum of squares. The residual sum of squares is minimum. So you are focusing on your residuals and obtaining these estimates. So when you are focusing on your estimates and obtaining these, if you are not validated and if you are not taken care about the assumptions that were made about your residual, they may not provide the good OLS estimators. So to have a good OLS estimators, we must focus on those assumptions. We have to validate the limitations of that using this OLS estimator. So that is very important. And once we know that the error sum of squares is minimum, we have to minimize this factor, y minus xb, right, into y minus xb. This is to be minimized. Error sum of squares must be minimized so that we can get the p values. We know the estimate is x dash x inverse, x dash y, that is the ordinary least square estimators. And of course, these ordinary least square estimators will be robust, will be best linear unbiased, provided those assumptions are satisfied. If those assumptions are not satisfied, we cannot go for this. So to have the best linear unbiased estimation, that is required. One more thing, another assumption is there. The error term follows a normal. That is a very vital. Why that assumption? To have the inferential part of these estimators. To validate whether these estimators are truly representing the population parameters or not. We must have a statistical testing. To have all the statistical tests, to have the inference, we must have a statistic distribution, sampling distribution. To get the sampling distribution of the statistic, we require the assumption on error term follows a normal distribution. So that is a very, very vital assumption. Based on that, our regression analysis will be going on, will be taken care. So these are the, in addition to 5, one more, sixth assumption, which is also very vital, useful for data analysis. So these are the 6 assumptions we have to take care, and we have to consider always the limitation of the regression analysis. In that, let us look into the STOTV. Among all, the most commonly considered, commonly done, taken care in data analysis is multicollinearity. The common problem. Because when we have taken a response variable and we have collected the independent variables which are influencing the response variable, naturally, we may use some fishbone diagram or cause and effect mapping and other things. We may collect several of the variables. Our perceptions will be working out. And we may say these are the independent variables we have taken. Do they be really independent in the sense that there is no correlation among themselves? That is a very important consideration. If they are not independent, then your model validation is a big problem. Your analysis, your OLS estimators, all this part will be very affected if you don't solve this problem. So the multicollinearity is the one of the most important consideration which talk about the correlation among the independent variables. This we have to take care. So when we are taking that, independent variables are the very important to determine the percentage of variation in that. So if they are correlated, what is wrong? If they are correlated, the model, what you have taken into consideration, that may be giving a problem for making the interpretations. Because since they are correlated, whatever inferences just you have fitted the beta hat and taken care of the model may not serve the purpose, because the OLS estimators are not best linear unbiased estimators. And not only that, they will be drastically change the your testing, t-test, f-test, they will be influenced because of this correlation among the variables. And in the presence of the other variables, you are validating this particular regression coefficient. It is not an independent variable. So even though it is not significant, your SPSS package say t-test, the beta is significant because it is correlated with something else. Or you will get the model is good, but there is no beta coefficient significant. So this sort of confusions in our inferences and model is not robust. More so, the percentage of variation explained in that is not perfect, is not correct. R square value, capital R square value, or R bar square value, they are not correct because the OLS estimators are not unbiased, are not having minimum variance. So that is the basic problem. Then how to identify? Fine, whatever variable we may think, our perception says they are independent. Do they be really independent? This is a very interesting and important thing. We have to validate statistically, not by our gut feelings or by experiences, but by scientific methodology only we have to validate. That we have two important things. One is known as a correlation matrix, the other is a variance inflation factor. We have to compute the variance inflation factor. So the correlation matrix we all know, one click will provide the correlations and we can see whether they are significant or not. So even though they may provide the significance, what extent the significance levels are to be taken care. That is very important because there is a correlation that may come out between the two variables, but that correlation may be very, very low. Low correlation because it is like producing an ideal gas. It is not possible to produce an ideal gas. Similarly, getting an independent variable is fine if we can get, but some cases a little correlation may be associated. So that little correlation we can ignore. How do we ignore? What is the methodology to ignore? What extent we can ignore? So just looking into the correlation matrix, we cannot see. So another very important thing that is to be taken. What is that measure? That measure is variance inflation factor, VIF. This is very important. This will take, because in the correlation we are considering only two variables. We are ignoring the other influence. In the presence of the other variables, we are considering these two, but we are not considering their influence on these two variables. So this is the basic problem. Eliminating that influence is the very important consideration. To do that, what is important? We have to concentrate on variance inflation factor, VIF. So variance inflation factor, if you consider, this is a very important measure. This is very useful because this is not just considering only two variables. It will consider in the presence of other variables how they are among all the other variables, how much will be there. This variance inflation factor is very simple. We consider all the independent variables we have. Let us say P independent variables or K independent variables. Take one independent variable artificially as a dependent variable, which is depending on all other K minus 1 independent variables. This particular variable, jth variable, is dependent on the remaining K minus 1 variable. Run the regression. Like usual regression, linear regression model. Get Rj square. Because this is the jth variable, we denote it as Rj. So multiple correlation coefficient or regression coefficient, you compute. You will get Rj square. Then calculate the variance inflation, VIF, for that particular variable as 1 by 1 minus Rj square. So this is for the artificial regression for the particular jth independent variable, VIF. Like this for all the K variables, compute VIF. Then it will provide you. What is this VIF? Variance, inflated. So variance is more, variance is increased. Why? Because of this correlation. So this variable is inflated. That's why this is to be given a more focus on that. If suppose VIF is 1, that is fine. That will be very good. But as I told that already, all independent variables are not possible for us to have. Certain extent of correlations are to be tolerable. So what extent we can tolerate? If the VIF is up to 10, below 10, we need not bother about that. Up to 10, we may be considering this order. Why up to 10? This 10, because VIF is 10 means it has inflated fully. So your OLS estimators are having the maximum variances, not minimum variance. They are having the highest variances. So your estimator is a very, very critical in your analysis and interpretation, which is behaving very dispersed. So we have to take that it should not exceed 10. As long as if it is less than 10 and maybe 1, 2, 3, it is very good. Less than 10, we can tolerate up to that part. So the variance inflation factor, with an example what I have taken, maybe 3.58, which we consider, we may ignore. Even though it is not 1, the correlation may be ignored. But if it is more, we cannot ignore that. For example, if I take an example, we have more than 10 also. So with this, the variance inflation factor is more. First attack, give the variable which has more VIF, delete that variable from the independent, because that is a redundant variable. Already that has been influenced by other variables and that is correlated with other variables. So remove that. And like that you could remove which variables are having this. They are redundant. So you could eliminate. Then your regression will be working out, your assumption will be taking out, separating. So this VIF will provide a methodology to solve this multicollinearity problem. Not only identifying, but also it provides a methodology to solve. So when I am taking this, which variables I can keep? When I am taking that, best set regression we may use. In the packages now, calculate R squares with respect to that. Start with backward selection. Put all the variables. No, because there is some of them are independent, not independent. They are correlated. We have to remove. One important method is for which VIF is more, you could remove it. Or else, if you say that it is less than 10, but they are still correlated and your analysis is not coming smooth, then use the backward selection methodology. This backward selection methodology will provide the important consideration to eliminate the dependent independent variables, which are dependent with other independent variables, those variables. Okay, so multicollinearity problem is one of the very, very important, very serious, one has to take care. Even though our package gives VIF, often we ignore, because as a consultant, I know that many of the people comes to us, they say that I got R square is this, they never bring out the full output of the SPSS. They simply bring your R square and beta values and say, this is the model I got, you interpret. We also sometimes may not bother about the assumption, but if you don't bother about your assumptions of validity of this multicollinearity, you are doing something wrong in your analysis. Ultimately, the analysis will go wrong. So, multicollinearity is to be identified and eliminated in our data. Then another problem. What is the other problem? Heteroscedasticity. Heteroscedasticity in the general linear models is the another. What did this talk about? A constant variance. The error term has a constant variance. This is very important. The another assumption. They have constant variance. Suppose that is not there. For a given x, the error, the residual, is not having constant. Then what is wrong? Then the problem is, again, OLS is affected. Again, you are testing inferences based on that. Those will be influenced. What exactly happens? Because of the flattedness of the error term, the normality is deviated. Thailand's probabilities are more. And it may not be satisfying the basic assumption of identicality of the distribution. If that is identicality is not there, then there is a big problem with respect to that. So that is heteroscedasticity is the very important consideration one has to consider. If the data is heteroscedastic, it looks like this. Not like a simple, even though there is a linearity, the errors are distributed. So like this, it will be. So there are two problems. Usual standard error is not correct. Standard error of the estimate, that is wrongly estimated. And it is not a unbiased estimate, best linear unbiased estimate. So we have to seriously consider about solving this heteroscedasticity problem. To solve it, how to identify? This is the very important. What is the identification methodology for identifying the heteroscedasticity of the data? Whether the data is heteroscedastic or not. How do you get it? How do you identify it? This is the very important consideration. So to do that, these are the heteroscedastic. One important thing, if you are using residual sum of squares in your estimate of the parameter estimator, then that will work. So this provides us all this heteroscedastic problem. So we can test. So to test this heteroscedasticity, we have a null hypothesis. That is the residuals as a constant variance, homoscedastic. The null hypothesis, residuals as a constant variance. This can be tested scientifically by calculating error sum of squares. Run the regression first, okay, calculate the errors, then using the each error on the independent variables. Using the each error on the independent variables. Because you have already run that and you got it. Estimated the residuals. With the estimated residuals, squares fit a model like this. Then the heteroscedasticity talk about delta 1 equals 0, delta 2 0, delta k. All are 0. Then there is a constant variance. To get this, we have a methodology given by Bruce and Paget. Test. So here F statistic we can compute. If this F statistic is satisfied, we can get. Suppose it is a small sample, small data, then fine. Suppose it is large data, then you could use for large data LM statistic and into R square. See that also follows your norm. And compare with the F statistic. Usually we have F statistic will be satisfied. And we may take that. So we can go with respect to this heteroscedastic. We can test it. Once you realize there is a heteroscedastic, okay, the variances is not constant for the residual. Then what more? You have no OLS estimators. May not work for whatever analysis you do with the data, may not serve the purpose. You have to change, you have to modify your models. So how you have to do that? What is the way to solve this problem? What is the solution for this? There is a solution we have. So there are of course testing. White is also given another 6. Most popular test is the white test rather than the earlier one. So we can here also F statistic we have to calculate and we have to do that. The advantage of white statistic is it uses with respect to the cross product of the independent variables. So white test is more robust compared to the earlier one. That's why several people use. We recommend for white test to be used. Then to correct the heteroscedasticity, how we have to do? Suppose you have a data and you have estimated the residuals and the variance of the residuals you have taken and find that. Suppose the variance of the residuals have a constant HI like that, HI, sigma square into HI, some HI value. Then you are very comfortable if you could be able to identify this HI value. So separate that HI value in that variance matrix. Then write your model as yi by root HI, beta naught into 1 by root HI, divide all the values on the both sides so that your model is now refined. This model is solve your heteroscedastic problem. But very important, H must be identifiable and known. But usually H is unknown. When H is unknown, how to get that? For that, we have a methodology. We have a model with the regression what you have done, y, usual regression you have performed. Now you have estimated your residual sum of squares. And with that residual sum of squares, take logarithm, log residual sum of squares. Fit a model like this. Now you have to take a model like this. Once you take a model like this, now this H, you could estimate your G1, J hat with this model. Now use H hat equals to exponential of Gi. This is also proposed by White. And if you use this HI, now HI value is estimated. And use this. This model now is solved your heteroscedasticity problem. So you could make, there is a constant, HI is now, you are taking as this value, HI value. So this HI will solve your problem. That is what you could have. Then, very important, I have talked about multicollinearity, heteroscedasticity. Another important thing is this autocorrelation. This is another problem. They have talked about constant variance, but what about the error correlation? Errors are correlated. But in our model, what we have taken, errors are uncorrelated, independently, identically distributed normally. That is the basic assumption. With that assumption only your F test, T test, all these tests that you are performing there and using the p-values, they are meaningful. If this assumption is not there, your TF is not meaningful. Your beta coefficient, that what you got the estimate, that is not meaningful. And these are upside. So you have to validate this one also. The another assumption of autocorrelation. So this autocorrelation will be talking about whether the error terms are correlated or not. This part we have taken. And in this, when we are taking it, here, if they are not correlated, 1 lakh, if I consider they are 1 lakh, they have the residual of at the Tth observation may be correlated with rho into mu t minus 1 epsilon t. So this is what we may have. So to solve this part of problem, why this comes, it may be a linear model we are fitting, it may be a non-linear model, in fact. Or maybe some of the variables that are not important, they are included, or that are important, they are left out. Your identification of the independent variables are not sufficiently, properly done. And this may produce the autocorrelation. So to have it, in many of the economic data, the autocorrelation series will be coming up. So to identification and solving it, this is very important. How to identify autocorrelation? We have one important consideration for this. That is nothing but one is a plot the residuals against the observed numbers, or use a run test with the residuals, or take a Durbin-Watson statistic, which is a very, very powerful, very useful, scientifically well accepted and robust test to test the autocorrelation of residuals. So Durbin-Watson statistic is the very important test statistic which is to be taken in. That is the ratio of the sum of square differences in successive residuals to the residual sum of square. So compute this. This measures the first order autocorrelation, whether it is there or not. So already based on the statistic of this Durbin-Watson statistic D, the critical values of upper bound and lower bounds are computed for the given sample size. For the given sample size, the critical values are calculated. How to do this is, we have, one is important, we can take this part or use the Durbin-Watson statistic, Bayesian rule. So here the tables for every given sample size, n is not the independent variable number, k is the number of variables, but n is the number of observations we have in hand. With that n, given n and k, the upper bound and lower bound are given, dl and du. With that, using this chart, you may say the null hypothesis, whether they are uncorrelated is the null hypothesis, whether they are correlated or not. So you may reject, or you may have a no decision, or reject, or no decision and reject. If there is no decision, then what to do? You have to increase your observations. You have to increase number of observations, because you are unable to decide whether there is a autocorrelation is there with respect to the residuals or not. For example, you have a data like this. So the statistical package now gives DW statistic. But many of the analysis when we perform, we may not go through that. We may not be think it is a very serious problem, but it is a very, very serious problem, because whatever inferences you are making on your FNT are based on this assumption. They are not correlated, but they are still correlated. If they are correlated, your inferences are wrong. So you cannot do that. So Durbin-Watson statistic is the very important, which will be taken, and you have to do that. Of course, once you have taken this, now what is the solution for this? Suppose they are correlated. Autocorrelation is present. How to solve it? So to solve the autocorrelation, we have taken very important consideration. We may induce in the model another model with the autocorrelated lags, autocorrelated values like this. Suppose this is our original model, a simple model I have taken. They are autocorrelated, the second one. Now consider the model like this. Consider your yt equals to like this. Once you consider this model, you could run it. Now obtain 1 lakh, the model with 1 lakh. Multiply both sides with rho. Now take this subtraction. You will be getting this. So with this, uptime, like star, that is here, if you go back, this we have. No, that is beta star. So 1 minus rho, that is taken. Now the model solves. This model is not autocorrelating. That autocorrelation problem is solved. So now you could use this model. With this model, you got this. So with this, you could make the interpretations and inferences you could get, because this is a satisfied your constraint. And you could use all the transformed variables. Now these are the transformed variables. With respect to these transformed variables, again retransformation and doing that. That is a very important consideration. Autocorrelation can be tackled in this way. Then correcting the autocorrelation, we have seen this. Cochrane and Arcat method is also there. People can use. And once you have used this, you could have what I said, that row model and other. That we can have. Then this is another problem. That means we have solved multicollinearity, heteroscedasticity, autocorrelation. Another very important limitation. Error terms are normally distributed. Will they be satisfied? No. We have to validate. We are given in the package residual analysis, but we see the PP plot, probability plotting. Usually. We may come across that, whether they will be normal or not. But that normality we can test using this. Usually in our statistical packages, these two figures are given, SPSS or SAS or R, whatever programs you are using, Minitab or something, you will get. So here it is very important, this PP plot. All the points fall here, it is a normal, perfect. If they may not fall the normal, because normality is a very vital assumption. If the observations, the residuals are not normal, then can we use this t-test? Can I use the f-test? No, not at all. Then how to do that? So people have come across saying that use the transformation for your dependent variable. You may use y square, y cube, y root y, 1 by y, 1 by root y, log, this like this. But these transformations you are using and you are building the model again, you are fitting the residual and you are testing and you are telling it is normal. Is it be correct? What for you want your analysis? You require for this, not for y cube, not for y square. Your analysis is required for y. Your beta should speak about y. So transformed data, so reverse transformation may not always properly interpretable. May not always properly interpret. Some cases we may be able to interpret, but many cases we are unable to interpret the retransformed. And that is the transformation variable. Inferences based on the transformation variables may differ from the inferences of the original variables. And the analysis that was based on that may not satisfy. Then what is the problem? We have another very important. Why do you bother about the existing regression only? That is the thing. We go for identifying the residual distributions. Residual is nothing but of your y. Remember that x's are controllable variables. Variables but controllable. So it is regressed on with respect to y. So y is the actual variable. So take the y distribution. Y distribution is governed by your error distribution. So residuals are governed by the distribution of your y. So you are taking the y distribution. Fit the distribution first for the y using your Pearsonian system. It is a not normal. If it is normal, good. Pearsonian first fit it. If it is normal, then go ahead. If it is not normal, don't go ahead. You fit with that new distribution. So how to do that? How to use the Pearsonian system? Calculate mu2, mu4. We know the moments. All statisticians or even elementary level statistics, they will be giving second order moment, fourth order moments. Mu3, third order moment. Mu2, mu3, mu4. With the data, we can compute. So here data to distribution, we are going. From distribution, we are fitting the model. So from the data only we will go for model, not from the model assumption as this. So we have a beta naught, beta 1, beta 2. Then fit a equation, quadratic equation. Calculate beta 1 is this, beta 2 is this, k equals to function of b1, b2, b3. Now this quadratic equation will have roots. Based on this k value, what is k? K is this criteria value. Based on this k value and beta values, you could now take it as a type 1 if it lies between 0 to minus infinity to 0. If it is minus infinity k, type 3. It is 0 to 1, type 4. 1 to infinite, type 5. Beta 2 less than this. Beta 2, 3, normal. If it is normal only, use that. Why after postmortem? Do it in the beforehand. Not at the end, not at the residuals calculation. Do it in the first hand, see whether it is a normal. Suppose if it is not normal, identify which distribution it is, find that distribution. So when we find the distribution, what is the type 1 probability? This is the type 1 probability distribution. Similarly, we have type 2. This is the probability density function. Similarly, we have type 3. Type 3 we have probability density function of this. Similarly, we have type 4, imaginary roots. And type 5, you can have like this. Then type 6, type 7. These are the distributions, and type 8 is non-normal, already known. So identify this distribution. Once you identify error term is there, now the question that comes is challenge, a big challenge for any data analyst, because your package does not work. Until your statistical package, whatever you have taken from SPSS or SAS or these packages, they talk about based on normal assumption, IID. Now clearly your variable is not normal. Then you have to develop your own. We have done for many of the distributions. We have published papers on non-linear models with non-normal errors. So we have to work out on that. We have to do. And those young people who are very much interested, they may still, there is no test directly available for even a very, very standard generalized Gaussian distribution, which is not type 8. Which includes normal also as a particular case. For that generalized Gaussian distribution, one can have this, think of developing a test like ANOVA. Similarly, the estimation, parametric estimation, explicit solution. So several challenges with this regression analysis for people to do research, because data to model we have to come, not that simply using the model that was there. And I spoke about linear. But when it comes to non-linear, your OLS may not work out. And another, this normal assumption is deviated, your maximum likelihood estimators are not OLS estimators for other distributions. Your maximum likelihood estimators are not ordinary least square estimators. Therefore, you cannot use OLS in such case. So estimation is another big problem, and these are the challenges still available for many of the young researchers to work on these regression models. When we are taking these regression models with respect to those, until the earlier 4 assumptions, we are not bothered about the normality, except because that normality is very useful to have that validity of those 4. So normality is the vital, then multicollinearity, heteroscedasticity, autocorrelation. These are the limitations. People should be very careful about these limitations while tackling with the data. And with this, thank you. I thank the organizers, particularly Sridhar and his team, for giving me an opportunity to deliver this talk. Of course, it is already known, but why I have chosen this is the limitations that are very important. Many of the people who are tackling with data analysis, they use regression analysis, but unfortunately they miss these limitations. That's why I have focused on that, and also a lot of challenges are there, and a tremendous scope is there to develop new packages based on non-normal errors, regression analysis with non-normal errors. This is the thing. I thank every one of the participants and the audience, my good friends like Uma Shankar, and also great personalities like Venkat Sharma. They are also in this I have seen, and also several other great personalities may be
just now, sir, just now Professor Rao Jamaladka has joined, sir.
Not just
Sir, namaste.
Namaste.
I'm very happy that I can hear your voice in that.
Right.
God also heard your voice. I'm very much.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a very good talk. Very nice review of many problems that people ignore and dealing with regression and topics like that. If I might put a plug in here, I recently published a book with my student Debashish Sengupta, and it specifically gets into great deal of detail about regression problems, regression, how to use regression R package that we built for doing regression models. I think I'll just leave that idea for the audience. It's called linear models and regression with R. Linear models and regression with R, an integrated approach. I don't know if I can flash this book.
Yes, sir. You have given a PDF format also.
Right. Any case, so that book has some more detail on the topics that you mentioned. And,
sure.
I don't see this showing as well. But anyways, that's a very nice talk and good to inform people about the deficiencies and plugging in data immediately into things that they don't fully understand. Very good.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your comments and things.
So thank you, sir. First of all, in spite of your busy schedule, you have come here for this talk. And here we have almost 10 questions, sir, in the question and answers. Can I read, sir?
Yeah.
The first question was posted by Mallikarjun Reddy Dudipala garu. Here the question is, I have multiple dependent and multiple independent variables. Then which model can we apply to forecast?
Yeah, definitely there is a econometric models. We have simultaneous equations. In econometrics, those who are dealing it, they have a simultaneous equations. So using that simultaneous equations, because you have multiple dependent variables, which are dependent on independent variables, set of independent. So you have a set of variables. So simultaneous equations. For all these simultaneous equations in econometrics, we have that in the heading of simultaneous equations that they can refer it.
And the next question, sir, it is from Mahesh Kumar Panda. And he's asking, if X is not of full rank, can you go ahead with Murray-Penrose G inverse?
Yeah, definitely people can use the G inverse. But the G inverse, when we are using, we have to use the generalized linear constraint. As I told that, the other part of thing, suppose the multicollinearity problem comes, if a rank is not full, multicollinearity problem is there. Why the rank is not full comes sometimes two problems. One may be a multicollinearity problems that may be checked. The other thing is whatever variables we have taken, we don't have a full data set. So we have only a partial data to solve it. We may not have OLS estimation. So definitely we can use that, but that is only an approximation in such case.
So next question is, in real life problems of data analytics, most of the solutions may not satisfy the assumptions of linear regression. So what do you suggest? Approximation or transformation or using of non-parametric models?
Here very important is, basically I have last slide I told it. Don't make any transformation, identify the correct distribution, use it. Okay? But that requires statistical knowledge, basic knowledge to develop the t-test, f-test like things. That is ANOVA like, not ANOVA. You cannot use T, you cannot use the test for F there. So you have to develop a theory for the distribution, whatever it comes. Of course, some of the distributions like T, mu symmetric, for these type of distributions, logistic, there is a theory available, at least in the theory part. So people can write their own programs and do that. But coming to the analysis, as it is, if they want to use the standard package and other things, the transformations is the way that is there. But when you are using transformation, there is a very difficulty is retransforming and inferring about the dependent variable. So that is the basic problem. That's why my advice will be, don't bother about the transformation. That's what my lecture, entire talk is on that. So you identify the correct distribution, find that. But suppose somebody comes and is in a hurry to do that, then you take the assistance of statistician to do that. As Sar has already told, in our package he has given how to build up these tests, statistical tests that can be used in such cases.
I think there is one basic question is there, sir, from Dr. Ajit Goswami. He is asking why Gaussian distribution is called normal distribution.
This is a very interesting part because it is L-shaped and Huygens approximation, error approximation. Normal is usually many of the considerations. Huygens approximation says that if you have random, Either side, you are unbiased. So it should be symmetric. Not only symmetric, it should be mesochatic. So a bell shape. So when it is a bell shape and symmetric, the term normal will be coming up, the Gaussian distribution. Gaussian is the person who has introduced this distribution.
Yes.
So usually people used to call on that. That is what exactly I got it. Nowhere in the literature I find why it is named as normal, but why it is named as Gaussian is the person who.
Yes, sir. Yes. And one more question, sir. If y is non-normal, how can y square become normal? If I'm K Padmavati.
That is what exactly I'm telling you.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee that the transformation provides this. So y is non-normal. Some of the y squares may follow. Y square, take a normal of y square. Now what is the distribution of y? Hypothetically, because you raised a point in that. So for such a type of data set which belongs to that y, they will have y square as a normal.
And many of the these participants have posted, like, can you suggest a good book on multivariate analysis for beginners?
Yeah, Saber as well as Sare has written that book. Already shown the book also. That is a wonderful book. People can refer. And Saber, Multi-Subject by Saber. That is one of the good books.
Thank you very much. Sir, continue, sir.
Douglas Montgomery. Yeah.
Sir, with this, the question and answer session is over, sir. It's the
Thank you.
time to show our gratitude towards you. So thank you very much, sir, for your informative presentation. Regression techniques are one of the most popular statistical techniques used for predictive modeling, data mining, and data analytic tasks. There are many regression algorithms. Each type has its own significance. Every analyst must know which form of regression to use depending on type of data distribution. This all we know, sir, but today you have covered such important topics such as why regression analysis, fundamental aspects of linear regression, the points that should be taken care while applying regression analysis to a real world problem, such as model selection, evaluation of assumptions, and model variation, and the other topics like correlation tests, identifying distributions, and many more were lucidly and skillfully was presented by you, sir. Sir, each and every slide of your presentation is very informative, and Geetam is privileged to have such a renowned scientist and inspiring teacher, an able researcher, a profound statistician on this occasion, sir. On behalf of Department of Mathematics and Center for Learning and Sustainability, I profusely thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation and extend our heartfelt gratitude to you, sir. Thank you for sparing your valuable time in sharing your thoughts on this present talk in this program. Once again, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Umashankar.
Thank you.
I bored you maybe because all this listening for the beginners I have.
No. It's really some of
advanced topics.
Now, particularly in software, when people would like to go for this, many of the students, even you must be getting so many calls. Sir, what is that I got to do? What is this? You must go and all. So a software fellow working on some analytics and business applications need this background. It's a must for them. Apart from the two basic regressions, there are many more regressions that are available in literature. Maybe very much useful in practical applications. So one must have a thorough, as you said, one must have a thorough knowledge about the basics so that it will be very essential, very useful to carry out the analysis part. So probing is one part. Your analysis, report writing, and how best you are able to interpret these things is very important. That can only a statistics background fellow can do and help the software. And it is very, very clean and very wonderful it is for, as you said, for a fellow who has something to do in practical applications of business.
Thank you.
Very nice, very good.
Sir, anyone from the panelists want to interact with sir? Any other panelists?
Already I interacted, madam.
Yes, sir. You can share your views on his presentation, sir.
మేడం
Then
ఇంకా
I was అంటే సార్ టైం తీసుకుంటున్నాం కానీ ఐ వాజ్ రియల్లీ లైక్ ఎక్సైటెడ్. యాక్చువల్లీ నాకు ఇంకా మ్యాథమెటిషియన్ ఎక్కువ చెప్పలేకపోతున్నాను, బట్ రియల్లీ ఇంట్రెస్టింగ్ టాక్.
రియల్లీ మేడం, ఇట్స్ రియల్లీ థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్ సార్.
శంకర్ సార్, సార్ జమ్మల్ మడక సార్ ఇది సార్.
Sir.
Hello.
Sir, say good morning for you.
Yes, sir.
Maybe in the very, very fine morning, at the back in the Santa Barbara at your house. So
Yeah, well, not quite, but
no,
the background.
but now, these days, yeah.
Yeah. Nevertheless, you know, I had to get up at 3:30 in the morning, my time. 3:30
Yes,
early
yes,
morning
yeah.
to hear
3:30.
Yeah.
Yes,
Uh,
no, I couldn't
sir,
miss
he disturbed your sleep.
No, sir. Actually, that shows sir's interest in attending our presentation.
Right.
We wanted to join.
No. My interaction with Jamal Madaka goes back nearly 18-20 years, I say.
Yeah.
At IIT Mumbai, I remember still 20 years have an interaction. Then onwards, he is guiding us in so many ways. Whenever he is here, without coming to his second house, Visakhapatnam Andhra University is his second house. That is our affinity with him.
Actually,
So-
I saw sir in your like when you conducted this. I think 2007 or 8, you have conducted one international conference, sir.
2010 మేడం.
2010, yeah.
Then
Maybe, yeah.
international
2nd to 8th.
Yeah.
That was my first international participation, like in the conference, like international conference. That's the first conference I have participated, and there I saw sir name and I have listened to his talk.
Was there all through the days with us, sir.
Yes.
Guide and help us, you know. Sir, one thing, when last time I met, you have been telling that one book on directional data analysis.
Right.
With Professor Sen Gupta.
Right.
So you have
Yeah.
It is available, sir. We got a copy.
Yeah.
Direction data. So you are telling that it is in the final phase and all, it is going to be published.
Now that has been published in 2001, or quite some time ago, but we are trying to revise and update it a bit more, and we'll see. Yeah.
That is if one good student is there, it is a wonderful area, sir, to come up with some good results and all.
Right. Very good.
Sir.
Yeah.
Sir, Jamal Madaka sir, this is a clarification on behalf of all the participants I am asking. Is the regression with not with van Miers's distribution errors? Is there any other elliptical errors distributed with regression analysis?
Right.
Is there available on that literature?
Yes, people
So
have done
regression analysis with elliptical errors.
Correct. I think there are models where, you know, for example, you're looking at the two directions.
In van Miers's distribution.
Correct. There are some models, and that's completely different creatures. I don't think they fit into these general ideas that we usually discuss when we talk about regression. Yeah, there are some ideas for directional data.
Yeah, ideas were there, but no concrete in the literature except van Miers's distribution. We can't find much on this part. So think about working on that also. Another section.
Yes. Wonderful. Very good. Okay, I'll get back to sleep now. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Good day, sir.
Bye.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much for joining, sir.
Bye.
Guru Garu, thank you very much having some good academic interaction for us retired fellow.
Yes.
After a long time with మేము ఆయన గురువు గారు అట్టవు లేదా భాస్కర్ గారు అట్ట ఏదైనా పిలుస్తుంటారు ఆయన కూడా నన్ను అట్లే పిలుస్తుంటాడు గురువు గారు. సో వెరీ నైస్ ఆఫ్టర్ సిన్స్ మేబీ లాంగ్ టైమ్ వీఆర్ జస్ట్ మీటింగ్
Because of the COVID and now
correct.
It is there and we could not meet together. This is a good platform. I thought that okay. Thanks, sir. Thank you for your participation in this and also your comments on that. Thank you. Thank you.
God bless you with many more academic distinctions in your university in the upcoming days. God bless you. Right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, every one of you. I am leaving. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Namma.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks your time, sir.
Thank you to all your colleagues. My good wishes. And God bless you all. Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you one and all for your active participation. This is the time to fill the